G'day everyone, just thought I would let you know that my next review is about to commence production. I have just been very busy with uni, work, all that other shit. In the meantime, I've decided to put together a review for a much older game that I believe still holds its ground against many current generation first-person shooter titles. What am I talking about, you ask? Well, let's find out. That's right, I'm talking about Goldeneye 007 for the Nintendo 64. Now, Goldeneye was developed by Rare and released on the Nintendo 64 on August 25th, 1997. Now, Goldeneye was one of the only movie-based games to do it right, unlike pretty much all of the movie game spin-offs we've seen ever since. In my opinion, Goldeneye began what is now known as console-based first-person shooters, and if it weren't for it setting the standard, we wouldn't have some of the insanely awesome first-person shooters that we have today. So what makes Goldeneye such a golden classic? Well, I'll tell you. Story for this game. Goldeneye is based on the film Goldeneye, obviously, and thus follows the storyline of the movie, which was to stop your once ally, now arch-nemesis Trevelyan from causing mass destruction by the activation of the Goldeneye. Now, what makes this game so fantastic is that it follows the source material very closely and is still a great game. The story is told through mission briefings at the beginning of every mission, which basically explains what Bond's mission is and what objectives he must accomplish. Now, as a kid, when I first played this game, I didn't give two shits about reading through all of this bullshit, and even now, I don't really care all that much. So the story in Goldeneye merely served as a means to move the game along from mission to mission. However, if you had seen the movie, which a majority of you would have, you kinda understood what was going on and where the plot was taking you. Presentation for this game. It's kinda hard to comment on the visual presentation of this game, as I'm now used to the graphical prowess of the current generation PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. But for the time period, the visuals were great, 64-bit graphics at its best. Each level was different and looked and felt like its respective scene from the movie, so the game did a great job of displaying things visually. Now, the sound presentation of this game is decent also. There is absolutely no voice acting, and everything in terms of dialogue is displayed as in-game subtitles or text. Again, it was to be expected given the time period. Very few games actually utilised the talents of voice actors during this period of time. However, the weapons sounded appropriate and often menacing, and the game's soundtrack was used well, and added something unique to the atmosphere of each level of the game. Gameplay for this game. Again, Goldeneye set the standard for console-based first-person shooters, and even to this day is remembered as one of the best first-person shooters ever made. As James Bond, you play through a total of 20 missions inspired by events of the film of the same name. Therefore, you'll find yourself in snowfields, underground bunkers, boats, missile silos, and many more. The game even incorporates a really cool mini boss fight with Genya, one of the main antagonists of the film, in the middle of a lush jungle. And trust me, this fucking bitch is packing some serious heat. Those of you who have already played this game will know exactly what I mean. You can also take control of a lumbering tank and fuck shit up in a number of missions. You have 4 save files available to you from the get-go, which is great if there is more than one of you wishing to play the story missions and or the multiplayer. The game gives you the option of playing through the game on one of 3 difficulties: Agent, Secret Agent, and 00 Agent. Playing through the game on the easiest difficulty increases the damage taken by enemies, reduces the damage taken by Bond, and limits the number of objectives per mission. However, playing on harder difficulties ups the challenge by increasing the number and the complexity of the objectives you have to complete, increasing the damage that you actually take from your enemies, as well as making the enemies a lot tougher. So, it's needless to say that the replay value in this game is definitely existent. The different weapons at your disposal in this game also kicks ass, with the exception of the Club. But that gun was fucking useless. It was one of the weakest and pathetic guns in the entire game, and I fucking hated it. On the other hand, each weapon had its own unique characteristics. Who can forget the awesomeness and sheer power that was the RCP-90, as well as the automatic shotgun, the grenade launcher, or even better, dual-wielding any one of these bad boys. And who can forget James Bond's weapon of choice, the PP-7. To this day, I can still hear the sound of firing off the rocket launcher and dealing some serious damage. The cheat system in this game was always enjoyable. You were able to unlock many cheats which you could utilise in the story missions that you had already played, which added a tremendous amount of replay value to the game. You could even use some of them in the multiplayer modes, which I'll talk about now. The multiplayer mode on Goldeneye was fun and addictive as hell. It was one of the first console-based first-person shooters that could actually incorporate a 4-player multiplayer mode due to the console's 4 controller ports. Therefore, if you had 4 players handy, you'd soon find yourself playing match after match, all the while losing track of time. It's still awesome today to pick up a controller and give it a go with some mates. Now, before any of you say, wow, what a one-sided review, let me tell you, this game does have its flaws. Though not very many and not significant, they're still flaws all the same. The first of which is no co-op. Now, it's not a game-breaking issue in the slightest, however, it would have been great to play through the story missions with a mate or a sibling close by. It would have simply made a great single-player campaign even better. The next flaw in this game that I found quite annoying is the fact that there are no checkpoints. Now, it's not a massive issue, but it would have been nice to throw in a few checkpoints here and there so the player doesn't have to replay an entire mission if he or she dies, which often wouldn't happen. It'll be fucking Natalia that fucking dies. Hence the desperate need for fucking checkpoints. Which brings me to our next issue with this game. Natalia. Now, who that has played this game can honestly say that they don't have a passionate hatred for this bitch? Why, you may ask? Because she's so fucking annoying. She always dies, which results in a mission failure, and believe me, this happens a hell of a fucking lot. Especially in the control mission on 00 Agent when you're supposed to protect her, and she just fucking cops bullets to the fucking face. So half the time, to save the trouble of your enemies, you just fucking ice her yourself. Overall, Goldeneye was a truly great game and has definitely set the standard for the first-person shooters that we see today, such as the likes of Call of Duty, Resistance, Halo, and many more. It was by far one of the best games on the Nintendo 64 library, and its first-person shooter prowess paved the way for an inevitable sequel, Perfect Dark. The final score on Goldeneye today is a 9 out of 10. No game is ever 100% perfect, but Goldeneye was just about there. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening.